Hello again, everybody. It's Gas Bandit, and I'm going to create a getting started in Gnomoria tutorial today. Gnomoria is kind of a clone of Dwarf Fortress, if you've ever heard of that, only it's got a graphical user interface instead of ASCII, and is a little bit easier to get your head wrapped around, but there's still quite a steep learning curve to it. So I thought I'd do a tutorial on how to get started on your first gnome fortress in Gnomoria. Alright, obvious stuff. New game. Land of Sweats, why not? You can size standard, difficulty normal. For the advanced stuff, generally don't need to mess with it too much unless you just want to really customize your experience. So, anyway, that's all fine. We're going to go ahead and generate. This takes a minute or so. Okay, here we go. Here is the map as we start. Ooh, it's a very hilly map. I'm going to hold down Control and then move the mouse roller down to zoom out because I like to see more when at all possible. We have got a very big hill in the middle of this one, which we might as well use as our base. Why not? So, let's take a look at what we're starting with here. All of our guys are here on this hillside here. And let's see, we've got Clinklick the builder, Gaff the builder, Ava the farmer, Stelvingledo the farmer, Netuster the miner, Ola the miner, Fondle the rancher. Fondle the rancher. Talk about a bad name for a rancher. Tato the woodcutter, and Fizzemble the woodcutter. Alright. And given that it's just starting out, it starts us with some supplies. It gives us a couple of piles of wheat straw, a couple cotton bags full of seeds that have wheat and strawberry seed in them, and it also gives us a few crates full of things like food and bandages and tools that we need to get started. Okay, well, let's start getting everybody put to work. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear off all the wood on top of the hill because I'm going to turn that into a pasture for our yaks. So, right-clicking, you can go to Agriculture and Fell Trees, and then just click and draw a box and click the opposite corner, and that queues up cutting down all those trees. Alright, now while that's going on, all this is on pause right now, incidentally, so you can pause the game and issue a bunch of orders and then continue on. While that's happening, I'm also going to get started with hollowing out the hill to build our home in it. So I'm going to, you go up and down levels by rolling the mouse roller up and down. That lets you see various cross sections of what you're working with. And the easiest way to build a home is just to dig it out of a hillside, really. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go down a level here so that I see the first level below the top. And now, one thing I definitely recommend is that you hit escape, go into options, go into controls, and find the one that says mine wall and map it to something. Doesn't matter what it is. I like to use Z, but you're going to be using this so often it's nice to have a hotkey for it. And while you're in here, you might as well find build wall and map it to something similar too, because those are the two that I use most in my games, and you'll probably end up using them a lot too. So you can either right click and say terrain, mine, wall, or you can just hit your hotkey, in my case Z, and then start marking out what you want to dig. I'm going to dig a large room up here because this is where I'm going to have my stockpile. Okay, the miners will be getting started with that. Let's start time moving now, because then once I get this hollowed out and can build a stockpile in there, then people can start moving stuff inside. And once this is all cleared off, I can build a pasture and get a farm going so that we can grow some food. So, I'm going to click the regular speed play here. It's going to save the game since we're just getting started, so I have to click play again. And the woodcutters are cutting the wood, and the miners are digging out the top of that hill. And everybody else is just kind of standing around with nothing to do. Going to right click and say designate area stockpile, and for now I'm just going to build one large stockpile that holds everything. Later, when you get into specialized workshops, you can have specialized stockpiles to keep the things they need handy. But just getting started, I'm going to name it main stockpile, and we're just going to have one big stockpile that holds everything. And then I'm going to hit spacebar to pause it, and I'm going to have it build the storage crates. Well, really we have the crates on hand, so I'm not building them, but I am placing them in my stockpile here, and that will move the crates with their contents and everything into the stockpile. And there were also a couple bags, so I should also build bags. There are 2 bags, so I'll build them in the opposite corner. And then I think we even have, we do, we have 2 barrels of strawberry wine. I'll put them in there too. Build storage barrel, 2 barrels. Let's start them in the opposite corner here. And then the builders will start moving all the stuff inside. Let's check out how things are going on top. Woodcutters still cutting away. Let's see. Once I get to about 5 by 5, I should be able to designate the area a pasture. I think there's enough now. Until I want to pasture the yaks there. And they eat straw. Now that size only accommodates 2 yaks right now, but it's better than nothing, and we can make it bigger later. So now that there's a pasture, the rancher will begin to pasture our yaks there. And from the same token, I'm going to designate an area, a farm, over here. I'm going to make it about 8 by 8, and we're going to grow some wheat there. And at the same time, I'm also going to make a strawberry patch. Oh, but there's some stuff in the way. We're going to have to forage these cotton plants off the top here to make room for a farm. I've queued up the cotton plants for foraging. And now that we have pasture for the yaks, we need to have their food handy too, so I'm going to make a second stockpile here that's going to have straw in it. I'm going to limit it to only straw, which is a plant straw, and I'm going to have it pull that straw from the main stockpile. That means that if there's straw in the main stockpile, that a gnome will try to move it to this stockpile. And that'll, until I can get the wherewithal to build a trough in the pasture, that'll at least keep their food handy for when they get hungry. Okay, with all that going, I need to start thinking about other concerns, such as bedding down and sleeping. Now, I have a very limited amount of straw So I'm going to have to try to get my gnomes to sleep in shifts. And the first night they're all going to fall asleep at the same time. Can't do much about that, but the ones who sleep in beds will sleep better than the ones who don't. And so that will start to stagger the workforce so that eventually some will be sleeping in beds while everybody else is working, and then when the guys in the beds wake up, the other workers will be tired enough to go to bed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mine out one more section of wall here, and then I'm going to terrain dig stairs down right here. And a miner dig the stairs down. Alright, and that takes us down to this level here. The first thing I'm going to do is hollow out this area so it's big enough to see. And then I'm going to build a dormitory off to the side here. I'll make it 5 by 5 to start because I don't have a very large workforce. And now that that's hollowed out, I will designate the area a dormitory. Communal sleeping area, which is better than sleeping on the ground, but not by much. You want to, as soon as you have the wherewithal to get more straw, you're going to want to start building real beds and give people personal quarters. But in the meantime, a dormitory with build furniture straw beds is going to have to do. And I'm going to build 5 straw beds. That'll use up 10 straw, leaving 22 to feed the axe until our first wheat harvest comes in. Forage that. Now you may be wondering about this hotbar at the bottom. The hotbar is basically the same as the right-click menu. See, terrain, agriculture, build, designate area, terrain, agriculture, build, designate area, so on and so forth. And so you can either step to the menu in the hotbar, or you can do like I prefer to and right-click and select from a menu what you want to do. Okay, we've got all that clear, so I'm going to designate an area, a farm. We're going to also plant some strawberries. 5 by 5. Strawberries. And we might as well get a cotton farm going too while we're at it. Okay. But I want the wheat farm to be priority. And they're moving all the crap inside. Okay, now that we're starting to get things going now, we're going to need some we need some workshops so we can start building things here. And I'm going to build our first workshop off to the side here. I like 5 by 5 rooms. It's a vestigial holdover from my days of playing Dungeon Keeper, but it works out for most things too. Generally that makes a room big enough for a workshop and its own little stockpile at the same time. Okay, so that room's hollowed out. Now here we want to build, let's see, workshop. First thing we need is a crude workbench so that we can cut logs into planks. Now the problem is we're going to need some raw stone, and we haven't found any raw stone yet. I'm going to put down the plans for it, but we won't be able to build it because we're going to have to dig down and find some raw stone. And let's see, probably the most effective way to do that will be, since we're going to end up going down anyway, we're going to have to just keep, actually there might be some, oh, that's in a cliff. See, there's some stone here, but it's in a cliff, so it's hard to get to. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it terrain, dig, stairs down, and we're going to just keep digging stairs down until we get to stone. And generally that happens around depth -7 or so. Oops, I unselected it. Terrain, dig, stairs down. I mean, notice my depth is on this level 6. I mean, this was a really tall hill. This was a 14-story hill. But I'll just keep going down. They'll dig this out pretty quick. One. Now down to sea level. And there might actually... we might actually strike stone before we get there, because a big hill means that the rock will generally be pushed up too. So I'm going to watch them dig that out. Let's see if we don't strike stone sooner than I think. As a matter of fact, we do. We struck stone already. So we don't need to go quite that deep, but you know what, we will anyway, so I'll just leave it there. But that also gives us the raw stone we need to make the crude workbench. And in the crude workbench, we're going to need... let's see, at the crude workbench we can build planks, chairs, workbenches, and chisels. And that means that we can start building some other things too. I'm going to build another 5x5 room here. Oops, I don't want it there, so here's how you... I wanted it to connect to the middle of the room, so I'm going to use cancel job, build... no, I'm going to mine out. There, that connects to the middle of the room. Alright. Now when it comes to workshops, you're going to need a workshop to do all sorts of things. You need to make a workshop to cut raw stone into stone blocks. You're going to need a workshop to take the planks you make and build them into something useful. So pretty much the first thing you're going to want to build is going to be, let's see here, build workshop, wood. We're going to need a carpenter. Sawmill will come later. We need a masonry workshop first to make us a saw blade, and we can't quite make that yet, but we need a carpenter. And the workbench, chair, and chisel can all be made at our crude workbench. So I'm going to put that in here. Actually, I want to move it a little bit. Build workshop, wood, carpenter. I'm going to leave room for sideways expansion so that eventually a sawmill is also placed in here. Now, notice that the crude workbench has turned green. That means someone is planning to use it. And here, Fizzle-Bimble Woodcutter is now cutting logs into planks, which he will then use to make the components that will be used to build this carpentry workshop. Let's see. We'll take this time to go over the menus at the top here. Kingdom gives you your basic kingdom worth, tells you what nearby lands have been discovered that you can use diplomacy to send ambassadors to, or to get ambassadors from, rather, and trade with. Workshops list all your workshops. Farms lists all your farms. Pastures lists all your pastures. And rooms lists basically your personal quarters, dormitories, dining rooms, and hospitals. Basically all the stuff that you either sleep or eat in. It's mostly useful here for checking on rooms to see what, when you start getting private quarters, you can use this to easily tell how many empty ones you have that are ready for expansion. And also for checking your kingdom worth. Kingdom worth is important because that determines what attacks you. How many goblins come to kill you and steal your stuff is largely based on your kingdom worth. Next is stocks. Stocks will tell you in just a general overview that you also see up here by default, food and drink. Stockpiles lists all the various stockpiles that you have, and you can click on them to either edit them directly, or you can use this menu over here to filter them based upon what each stockpile accepts. This is why I go about naming the stockpiles different things, because they show up differently on this menu, and this is very useful for inventory management. Items will show you all the items that you have based upon this filter in all stockpiles. So for example, right now I've got 243 clumps, 243 of which are dirt, 17 raw stone, all of which are granite, 17 logs of various types of wood, 9 fibers, all of which are cotton, 55 seeds of these various types, clippings of various types, fruit, loaf of bread, 4 yak milk, wine, 1 plank, 29 bandages. Bandages are very important, especially in the beginning of the game, because not having any real armor or military to speak of, any attack is going to immediately cause very bad bleeding, and bandages are how you stop your gnomes from bleeding out. Let's see, start with a couple picking axes, felling axes, a sword, a helmet, and a breastplate, and 20 straw. I had thought that they had started putting in a bone needle in there to get just going on the tailor, but I guess not, which means that very quickly we're going to need to build a bone carver. Because a bone carver will carve a bone into a bone needle, which you need to make a tailor, which you need to make more bandages. So that's very important very soon. Okay. I didn't strike anything interesting digging down there. I was hoping for a mineral strike or something. Okay, farmer's still plugging away on the farms. We don't need to start a tree grove yet. I mean, this hillside is covered. Fondle falls asleep on the floor. Yep. The beds are all full, so gnomes are going to start falling asleep wherever they find. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. And now it's morning and everybody's up and working again. I've hollowed out this room here, which I'm going to queue up another workshop in. I'm going to make a stone cutter, which again, workbench, chair, and chisel are all things that can be made at the crude workbench. And that will get it so that we can cut raw stone, which looks like this little unassuming gray clump here. And cut that into blocks. And then the blocks can be used to build walls or other useful things. I also made the yak pasture a little bit bigger so that when a yak is born there will be room for it in the pasture. And as we started with a male and a female yak, there will eventually be another yak born. I just hope we have straw to feed it before too long. Okay. Alright, the carpenter's turned green, which means we finally have the parts to make it, and the builder is getting busy on that. Now the carpenter's is done. As you can see, the carpenter is capable of building a whole lot more stuff than the crude workbench is. We still need the crude workbench for now for making planks. But the carpenter can now build the workbenches and chairs and all that are needed. Alright, now I'm going to do something a little bit unconventional here too. I'm going to go into my population and I'm going to check and see if any of them have skills that are not currently being used in their strict and rigidly defined occupations. For example, I got 2 builders doing nothing, but Klinklick here has 14 in carpentry and 14 in prospecting. Goodness knows what else. So I'm going to come in here and click him, and then go to his profession tab, and going down the list here, I'm going to find everything that has 12 or higher. I'm going to rename him Builder Plus. He now has a custom occupation. Now there's a drawback to doing this too. Usually, if you go to professions here, you can, if you define a profession and then assign a profession to a gnome, you can alter all the gnomes using that profession by coming here and editing the professions. But if you go and assign professions on a gnome by gnome basis by customizing it this way, then you'll have to, if you want to make any changes, you have to do it to every single gnome individually. But right now I'm going to see, he's got carpentry and wood carving that he's good at. Oh, he's not a bad metal worker. He can make jewelry. He can weave. And even tailoring is 11. That's borderline. I'll give him that too. Give him that too. He's a good leather worker, a prospector. Also, you want to get in the habit of assigning every gnome and every profession to be a mechanic, because the mechanic skill doesn't actually mean fixing anything. It means throwing switches, pushing buttons, that kind of stuff. So if you want someone to be able to use a lever or ring a bell or anything like that, they need to have the mechanic skill. He's no good at ranching. He's good at cooking. And he's a good medic. There. So now we have assigned, he's able to do all the things he's good at, as opposed to being just a rigidly enforced builder only. There's a plus side to doing this, in that it helps get more done when you have a very limited workforce. But on the bad side, because he's spreading himself wider, he won't gain skill in a specific area faster, because he's doing all these different things as opposed to just building and hauling. If he was just building and hauling, his construction and hauling skills would be going up very fast. But because he's splitting his time among now 20 different things, then they'll all go up kind of slowly. But I find, especially when you're just starting out, you need people to wear several hats. Like Gaff here is also a good miner. So why don't we go and give him I'm going to rename him to Builder Plus, just like the other one. I do that because that lets me know that he was originally a builder, but I have assigned him other things, so that when we get more stable, if I care to, I can come back and reassign him to the main builder profession, which would then return him to his main job and make it so that he would respond to changes I make to the build profession en masse. Let's see, he's also good at stone carving. Nothing in wood. He's a good smelter. Jewelry making. Tailoring and weaving. Nothing there. Ooh, he's good at tinkering and machining. And he's going to be a mechanic, just like everybody else. He's good at butchering. Nothing in agriculture. And he's a mediocre doctor, but we'll leave it off that. Okay, that'll give the builders something to do when there's nothing to build. I'm also going to build a second crude workbench, because we want more planks. And we want them faster. And have it build planks on repeat. In fact, I'm going to have them both build planks on repeat, because right now there's not a whole lot we need to do with just raw logs. Now the only thing that springs to mind, besides building crude workbenches with raw logs, is that you need raw logs for making coal in a furnace. But we're not quite to that point yet, and these things will be long gone by the time that comes about. So there's no point in just keeping all these logs around. We need them to be planks as soon as possible. And while we're doing that, I'm also going to have them cut down the trees that are right around the entrance too, just so that the entrance is easier for me to find. And incidentally, the key to shorten and raise the walls is F. You'll be using that a lot so that you can see what's behind the walls. Okay, we also are going to need a Great Hall. Great Hall serves for a place where if you put tables and chairs in there, the gnomes will go there to eat and drink. And also it will serve as a gathering place for gnomes who have nothing better to do. So you can easily tell how large your idle workforce is by how many people are hanging out in your Great Hall. Plus, it's best to have it back, because without it, you're going to have people just wandering around outside and doing whatever the hell. And it's better to keep your idle workforce in a safer location rather than just let them wander around outside until they find a bear or a badger to kill them. So I'm going to designate an area, a dining room. You can have many dining rooms, but you can only have one Great Hall. And the difference between a regular dining room and a Great Hall is the Great Hall is the only one that idle gnomes will gather in, and any improvements you make to your Great Hall will be worth double in your kingdom worth. So now guys who aren't doing anything will come hang out in this empty dirt room. Although right now they got lots to do. They're gathering up all the dirt that got dug up. Oh good, the stonecutter got done, so we can have it start crafting blocks on repeat. Matter of fact, I'm going to build, or not build, but designate a stockpile right next to it. That is going to be a raw stone stockpile. And it's only going to have raw stone in it. And it's going to pull from the main stockpile. So any raw stone that's in the main stockpile will try to get moved over here. Alright, now that that's done, why don't we think about building what's next? When that next yak comes along, we're going to need a way to butcher its bones. Or one of them anyway. So why don't we build a workshop, a butcher shop, table, chair, and knife. Now, building the knife's going to be a problem. Need a place to fit it. There we go. Okay, so to get a knife, I'm going to need to make this room a little bit bigger, because I'm going to need to build a stone mason, which workbench, chair, and chisel are all easy to make. But that stonemason will then let me use stone blocks to make useful things, not just stone furniture, but also things like knives and saw blades and that sort of thing. Okay, and they're building that. Now the stonemason will let us build stone doors, tables, chairs, chisels, saw blades, knives, molds, hearths, all kinds of stuff. Even stone swords, stone axes, and stone hammers. Well, that come in handy, given that right now, you know what, we need to set up a military. So I'm going to come a point where a bear or something is going to wander through here. So, The military is kind of complicated, and how it works is you're going to have squads, and squads are made up of formations of gnomes, and gnomes are made up of formations are made up of positions, and positions are defined by what perk they use and what uniform they wear, and uniforms are defined here. So it comes with a default uniform, that being plate mail, meaning, and it's set to where he'll wear any kind of plate, has a shield in one hand and any weapon in the other hand. So why don't we go ahead and, oh, they've also provided us with a basic soldier position, which I'm going to edit a little bit. I'm going to give it the guard perk, which will increase its ability to block with a shield. It wants to wear plate mail. I'm not going to have it pursue lost targets, but I am going to have it retreat if bleeding. That's important. If it gets wounded, I want it to go and bandage up. I'm going to have it retreat to equip uniform, so if a piece of its uniform breaks, it goes and retreats to put on a new piece. And have it assist the squad leader, because it's better if all the gnomes are attacking one thing at a time. So that is a good overhaul for the basic soldier. Now we need a formation. They start us with a basic formation, which I'm going to rename to guard formation. And for a perk, I'm going to give it shield wall, which again increases block rate. And it already populates all 5 positions in the formation with basic soldier. And I'm going to give it the job of defending gnomes, which means anytime a gnome spots an enemy, this formation, any squad with this formation will automatically go on the attack of that critter. Now, we need to make a squad with that formation in it. So I'm going to say new squad, and it generates a random name, Born Dirts, for the new squad. Well, I like my squads to have more descriptive names, so I'm going to say Guard Squad 1, because hopefully eventually I plan to have more than one guard squad. It's going to use the guard formation, and now that creates 5 positions for basic soldiers. So I'm going to scroll down this list and look at the stats of each gnome, and I want to find somebody who's good with a sword, because we have a sword in our starting gear. Ooh, Fizzemble has 14 sword. Ava has a 16 axe, that's one to remember. 13 axe on Fondle. 12 sword on Klinklik. And Gaff has 12 axe. Alright, so sounds like the winner... 16 axe on wood. Total. Looks like the winner is Fizzemble Woodcutter. Fizzemble is going to be our sole guard right now, because he's the only one we have even the beginnings of a uniform for. So I've assigned Fizzemble to be the leader of the guard squad, and that will mean that he will go and get equipped in the uniform we have for him as soon as he's done with what he's doing there. He went up. Well, he's too busy right now to get dressed. Sometimes that happens. A gnome will get too preoccupied with what he's doing to go and attend to other things, but as soon as he feels like he's done building planks, he'll go put on the uniform of his new guard position. Alright. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to create a new stockpile here for planks in the room with the carpenter. Plank stockpile. It's going to have goods of the wood variety, of the plank variety. And it's going to pull any such from the main stockpile. And that will make the gnomes come and put the planks in the plank stockpile. So now they're right next to the carpenter when he wants to build something with them. Looks like the knife for the butcher just got built. But I think the builders are asleep. Actually, one of them is crafting and the other one is sleeping. Clinklick is... Ah, here we go. Now he's building the butcher shop. That'll let us butcher the corpses of things that are killed for meat and bones. And the meat is obvious, it's for eating. And the bones are for making into stuff. Speaking of which, I think we should make a kitchen. So I'm just going to... go ahead and create a 5x5 room here. Matter of fact, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it 10 by 5. And I'm going to build a workshop, food and drink, make a kitchen. And I'm going to designate an ingredient stockpile next to it. I'll call that the kitchen stockpile. And in the kitchen stockpile, we're going to have it place all meat, and if we get any, eventually eggs, sausages, loaves of bread, cheese. Now I'm not putting the finished products in there like sandwiches or omelets because I want those to eventually go somewhere else. Let's see, and we also need grain to go in there because this is how we're going to make bread. Oh, and I forgot. I wanted to pull from the main stockpile. While that's going on, I'm also going to go into here to professions and make sure every profession has the hauling and the mechanic jobs. As you can see, Visimble's finally put on his uniform. Simple as it is, consisting only of a copper sword, a copper helmet, and a copper breastplate, with his arms, hands, legs, feet, all that entirely unprotected, and he doesn't even have a shield to use. Matter of fact, I'm going to see if we can go about making him a wooden shield to use. That way he'll be slightly more protected. And just for aesthetics sake, really, I'm going to have a door built. A stone door built at our entrance. Really, it might keep an enemy out for 2 or 3 seconds. But it also helps break their line of sight, which can sometimes be the difference between them seeing somebody to kill and not. There. Now, the entrance to our little burrow has a door on it. Did they finish the kitchen yet? Ah, they have finished the kitchen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the kitchen to make sandwiches on repeat. Sandwiches are the best food in the game. And sausage omelets and mushroom omelets come close, but sandwiches are the best. And the reason they're the best is because they're so complicated to make. To make a sandwich requires sausage and a loaf of bread. You got to make meat into sausage and grain into loaves of bread. So it is twice manufactured, and by game logic, much more nourishing for it. Okay, let's start planning out more parts of our fortress here. Like, I'm going to need a bone carver pretty soon. Yeah, I might as well just have that right here. And here we are with them digging it out. So I'm going to tell it to build miscellaneous a bone carver. And in the room with the bone carver, I'm going to designate a stockpile that it will be the bone stockpile. This is going to be where they take all the bones. So we just go to body parts and bones, and of course transfer any bones the main stockpile might have here. And next, I think I'll also get a tailor shop set up. I'll do that here. I'm making this one 9 by 5 because I know it's going to eventually be 3 workshops wide. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have it start building workshop cloth. Need a loom to make bolts of cloth. Build workshop cloth tailor, sew it together, and this is the one that needs a bone needle. That's the real race right there in the beginning of the game, is to get that bone needle as soon as possible. And some people like to do it by attacking wild animals for the bones, but that's dangerous. You can get somebody's leg bit off or killed or something, and then you're at a real disadvantage going forward. Me, I like to wait until the yaks have a baby, and then either, if it's male, slaughter it, and if it's female, slaughter it. And then use the bones to make the needle for the tailor. And one more we're going to need in here. We're going to need to build a workshop. Leatherworker. Just because they're similar, I usually put the leatherworker in the same area as the tailor. And then they're going to need their own stockpile, so I'm going to designate tailor stockpile here. And in it we're going to have, this is where the fibers and the bolts of cloths and the strings will be kept. Also the hides. That's for the leather worker. And then the armor part, the leather straps will also be kept there. And we'll transfer such things from the main stockpile. You know, I've got farmers doing a whole lot of nothing. I'm going to send them out to do some foraging this morning. Where am I going to send them? What's good to forage? There's strawberries and oranges right over here. I'm just going to have them forage this whole agriculture forage. Pretty much this whole side of the hill. Give the farmers something useful to do. Who else is idle? Well, the miners. What's that? A rancher. and builder. Not sure there's a whole lot I can do about that, other than, again, go through the population and start finding what people are good at. These miners, I'll bet they can do more than just mine. Well, they're really good at mining, but also good at wood cutting and smelting, jewelry making. I don't need this miner plus. Not so good at cloth. Okay at leatherworking. Good at animal husbandry. That's good. It makes me nervous to have only one of anything. And it starts out with one rancher. So if the rancher gets killed, you gotta assign somebody else to it. And usually they suck. Ooh, he's good at construction too. Why don't we just add that in there as well? And let's see the other miner, Ola. That'll give them the miners slightly more to do. Here, not everybody has something to do. Probably a lot of them are just carrying the food that the farmers are now scraping off the hillside. The rancher is milking the yak. Down to 10 straw. Hope that crop of wheat comes in soon. I'm gonna have to start breaking down straw beds to feed the yaks if not. And if you don't feed the yaks, they'll wander off and go away and be a complete and utter waste. You know, now that we have a full suite of stonecutter and mason, we can now build a sawmill. So I'm going to deconstruct the crude workbenches and build a sawmill instead. Shop wood sawmill. And I'm going to designate a stockpile around it. That's sawmill stockpile, and it's going to have logs, and it's going to pull those logs from the main stockpile. I'm going to enlarge the plank stockpile here too. And you can see this miner here working to make the saw blade. Saw blade's done. Carpenter has made the rest of it. And so now construction on the sawmill can progress. Okay. Now I'm going to make it so that the sawmill is going to make it so there's always 20 planks. That's what craft 2 means. It means that keep crafting this until you have this many. It's useful for things that you want some of, but you don't want to use up all the resources on. And it looks like we're down to only 2 logs. So I'm going to need my woodcutters to cut more logs. I think I'll just get them started over here. Fell the trees. Guy's sleeping on the floor again. Can't really build any more beds till we get some straw coming in. Another useful thing, when you're carrying around stuff, you can make wheelbarrows. And these wheelbarrows make it so that your gnomes can carry large stacks of stuff at once instead of having to carry things one at a time. So I generally like to craft 2 or 3 wheelbarrows right out the bat. And buckets do the same for liquids. And when you get a tailor up and going, sacks do the same things for clippings and seeds. Boy, that stockpile's getting kind of crowded. Why don't we build some more storage crates in it? And we sure got the planks to do it. There, the storage crates come in handy because each storage crate can hold 32 items. So rather than have to take up 32 spaces on the floor... Oop, monitor lizard spotted. That means my military gnome is probably going to run out there to attack it. If he's not asleep. Or too busy cutting down a tree. Okay, I'm going to make a distillery too because we're going to need some drinks. I'm going to expand our kitchen stockpile to also accept fruits. And I'm going to have to build a distillery. That'll let us make wine and beer and other excellent Gnomi type drinks. And they can drink milk if they have to, but they don't like it. And God forbid you run out of milk and they have to drink water from a well. And they can do that, but it does not satisfy their thirst, ironically, as much as booze. So they're stocking up the strawberries down here. Oh, I need to tell them to make something in the distillery, don't I? Well, let's make sure that we always have... let's see. We'll use the oranges for food and the strawberries for wine, why don't we? So craft strawberry wine and make sure that we always have at least 64 strawberry wine. That would be even more for our farmers to do when they're not farming. So why don't we also build some storage crates in our tertiary stockpiles here. A box here to put these in, and a box here to put that in, and a box here to put any of that in, and a box here to put bones in. Let me widen the stockpile a little bit. Oh wait, we don't need to. We don't need a box for raw stone. It stacks naturally. But speaking of raw stone, we don't have any. So why don't I just go down here to depth 3 and just dig out a bunch of raw stone. Guess my miners are asleep right now. Okay, the loom is done too, so I'm going to have it craft 20 bolts of cloth. And boy oh boy does that wheelbarrow come in handy. It is now sunrise on the 7th day of spring. And still no wheat and still no baby yak. We're down to 4 straw in the reserve. If that uses up, I'm going to have to start tearing down beds to get the straw back. Actually finding coal in the wall down here where I started digging out stone, and a different kind of stone. Bauxite. Honey badger. I hope he doesn't go attacking my gnomes. Okay, good, it's running away too. And my military gnome is too dumb to notice. You know, I could have sworn... Defend gnomes. Guard formation. Yep. The way that works, he's supposed to be attacking anything any other gnome sees, but maybe it's only applies to things that try to attack the gnomes. It is still an early release game after all, so it's easy to... It's still kind of alpha-ish. Well, beta-ish. And it looks like the strawberries are starting to come in. That's nice and all. How about the dang wheat? Oh, good. Finally, the wheat is starting to grow. Now that we dug up a little bit of coal, we can stick a torch up here too. Make it easier to see at night. So I'm going to build furniture, torch. Gonna need more boxes. And notice the floor is pretty much full, but it's full of things that don't go in boxes. It's full of things that go in bags. And I can't make more bags because I don't have a tailor. And I don't have a tailor because I don't have a bone needle. And I don't have a bone needle because the darn yaks haven't given birth to a baby yet. I could have taken a risk, I guess, and had my one guy with his copper weapons attack one of those animals that came meandering by, but at this point, I'm just not willing to risk it. Do just a little bit more mining down there for raw stone and some of that coal. Got a torch up top now, so it's easier to see during the night. Oh, good. More wheat is coming in. I was worried I was going to have to start breaking down beds soon. As soon as we get a comfortable reserve of straw under us, I'll just build some more straw beds so nobody has to sleep on the floor. I can't build real beds until we get a tailor. That's stuck on the fact that it doesn't have have sausage yet, but we can start making bread. Craft 20 of that. Give them something to do, something useful, because it's going to need to be bread anyway. And even if they start getting hungry and we don't have sandwiches for them to eat, they can at least eat fruit and bread. Matter of fact, I can also get them to convert yak milk to cheese. I only have 7 milk. They must be drinking the milk. That doesn't make sense. Well, anyway, I'll have it. Make cheese too as a alternate food source for the gnomes. Not doing too bad. I got 67 food and 71 drink. Good. Nice crop of wheat coming in. So I think we can build a few more straw beds so that people don't have to sleep on the floor. That ought to be enough. Man, need another storage crate for the kitchen. They are bread-making fools down there. Where is my baby yaks? Incidentally, if you want to turn the camera, they are period and comma are the ones that rotate the camera. Dig out more raw stone. And another crate to keep all that wood in. Okay, well, while we wait for the yaks to finally settle down and have their kid, I'm going to start building the next string of workshops. And the next one I'm going to end up building here, I think, is going to be... I think I'm going to build a stone carver. I'm going to build that up here with the other stone-oriented workshops. And what a stone carver does is it lets you build little trinkets out of stone. And that sounds kind of stupid and useless, but they're very expensive at the traders. So they're basically taking worthless rocks and turning it into currency that you can use to barter with merchants. So I'm going to build a stone carver. And extend the stockpile underneath it, just to make everything look nice. Okay, then at some point we're also going to need a furnace to make our own coal. I'm going to put it up here at the sawmill so that it can share the wood stockpile. I'm going to cut a little niche here in the side and build a metal furnace workshop. I'll bet that room will get real smoky. Still no yak. At least they got all the food they need. Okay, the stone cutters and the furnace is done. So I'm going to have the furnace make sure that we have coal, 32 coal at any given time. And I'm not going to start with making statuettes just yet, but now it's there for when we need it. I am, however, going to come down to this level and get started on our smithy. Let's see, I'm going to make it 12 by 12. You need a lot of room for all the various smith-related workshops, and a fairly sizable stockpile to go with it. Okay, so we need to build a forge. That's what melts raw ore into metal bars. Also slivers when you start smelting stuff down. And speaking of smelting, we're going to need a smelter. Smelter takes completed objects and melts them down into slivers, which then can be recombined into bars. It's not a perfect or even efficient system. So generally it's for melting down the armor of your enemies once you've killed them, is what I use it for. Next up, we need a blacksmith. Makes tools. That blacksmith will make various tools such as pickaxes and hand axes and all the various things that you need made out of metal that are not explicitly weapons. Now, usually I skip the metalworker. That's for making metal trinkets, and while I'm sure those would trade great, generally the the metal is more important for making tools. So I'm going to make a weaponsmith. And I'm going to make an armorer. And then I'm going to designate a stockpile next to it, leaving room for a couple more because I usually end up building more smelters and sometimes more forges. I'm going to make this the smithy stockpile, and it's going to contain, let's see, where's the metal? Metal ore, metal bars, metal slivers. And I'm also wanting it to contain worn armor parts and worn weapons for smelting. And any of that ends up in the main stockpile will get pulled down here. Okay, so that's all queued up for when it becomes useful, and it's probably going to be a while before it does come useful. It's building the forge. And while I'm at it, I might as well make a room for making jewelry too. If we start to find gems, I want to be able to make jewelry out of it. Build workshop, gem cutter, and build workshop, jeweler. And I like to keep it close to the smithy, so because I have the smithy's stockpile set up to accept all the bars, and so that's where the silver and gold bars will end up, and so the jeweler can just run across the hall and grab them there. And meanwhile, I also set up a stockpile in here for where all the gems will go, both raw and cut. Still no yak. Well, I'm going to start hollowing out the area for individual rooms anyway. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the grand hall level here, and I'm going to make some market stalls. That's enough room for 3 market stalls there. I'm probably only going to need 1 in the near future, but market stall there. Oh hell, I might as well just make all 3. I mean, I got the wood lying around. In fact, I might as well cut down some more wood. I like birch. Like its light color. So I try to concentrate on cutting down birch when I go to cut down wood. And once I've cleared off a lot of that wood, I'll start my own grove as well. Still no yak, still no yak. Okay. So I'm going to make a long hallway here. Crosshatch that hallway and build 5x5 rooms off that hallway. Okay, so this is where I'm going to build some private rooms. And I'm probably going to build another floor of private rooms underneath that, because in addition to private rooms for my gnomes, I'm also going to need room for ambassadors in order to get the merchants to come. So let's see here. Let's start gussying up these rooms a little bit. Going to build some doors for them because that increases their value, which makes them sleep better. I like stone doors. I just like the way they look. And for now, I'm just going to leave the natural hollowed out stuff. But later, when I need to increase the value of the rooms, I can come back and redo the floors and walls But at this point, I'm not, with still no tailor, because still no freaking yak, I'm not in a position where I can make real beds for it yet, so kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. I'm going to start hollowing out a hallway here, too. And still no yak. Well, I guess it's only been a month. Tomorrow is the first day of summer. I guess it makes sense that the gestation period of a yak is more than a month. But come on, yaks. Get it together. I'm going to build another storage crate here. Of course, it's probably way back in the queue behind all these other things I've said to build. Probably the steel mill, or the sawmill, is having trouble keeping up, I'd bet. Making the wheat farm a little bit bigger. That might be too much to hope for, but usually on the first of the month is when we get newcomers. I watch the lower left-hand corner of the screen when it hits about 8 a.m. today, and we'll see if I get any gnomads, which is kind of a play on words between gnome and nomad. Oh, look at that. 4 nomads have arrived. Well, the first thing we do is we go into population, and we look to assign them jobs according to their skills. Like, for instance, this one's good at wood cutting and carpentry. You know what? I'm going to go with my usual plan of saying, okay, you are a woodcutter, but you're also that, and that makes you a woodcutter plus. None of that. No. Good at tailoring. Bone carving. He's a mechanic already, but he can also tinker. No. Horticulture and farming and brewing. Boy, he is a useful guy. No. And that'll do it. Alright, this name, Fitzpatrick Toledo, has got to go. I'm going to name him Frank. Frank. Alright, continuing on. The newcomers arrive. They head inside and get to work. Good stuff. And the farmers are farming. My straw worries are over. But now I just need the yak baby. Okay, while that goes on, I'm going to make, in preparation, I'm going to make sure that we have 5 wooden shields ready for a squad of guards. And at the same time, I'm going to make a mixture of stone swords, hand axes, and hammers. Now all that's left is the armor, but I can't make the armor until we jump this whole hurdle of the yaks not having given birth yet. But at least the weapons and shields will be there, so if I absolutely have to have a military before I'm ready, at least they've got a weapon and an arm and a shield. Matter of fact, I'm going to go into my military menu and tweak the plate mail uniform so that it's going to use wooden shields. I don't know why they chose to classify wooden shields separate from shields, but they do, and that makes it irritating because you have to have separate uniforms for using wooden shields and shields. Okay, so my little guy has a wooden shield in his hand now, make him a little bit less defenseless. Not that copper armor is great, but it's better than nothing. What's that? That's a badger. I hope he stays away. Badgers are surprisingly vicious. I'm sure I don't need to tell any of you about the danger of the honey badger, which just doesn't give a shit. And he's getting closer. If it gets too close, we might have a problem. Damn. That crop is just going bumpers. I'm gonna expand the size of the wheat farm again. And to expand the size of a farm, if I didn't go over this before, you just start building a new farm, but start the new farm in the confines of an old farm, and that'll just increase the size of the existing farm. Same goes for pastures, and really any room. If you want to enlarge a room, just start the bounds of building the new room inside the old room, and it will expand the existing room. Sure could go for a yak burger about now. Well, I got all those doors done, in any case. Let's have them build some more. I think I need to enlarge this straw stockpile, if only temporarily, because the floor in here is full of crap that needs to go into bags, and I can't make bags yet. Because no yak! Because no yak means no bones, and no bones means no needles, and no needles means no tailor. I know about now probably somebody in the audience is screaming, would you just kamikaze blitz a badger or something? Well, I don't want to get 3 of my guys killed for a bone. I like to play it a little bit safe on there. I try not to just have my gnomes slaughtered wholesale. And believe you me, when I've only got 1 guy in partial armor, and that armor being copper, if I sick my gnomes on somebody, I'm gonna lose a gnome or 2 at least. Ah, a yak. Okay, let's have a look here. There are 3 yaks now, and instead of having to click on each individual yak to find which is the males and which is the females, because I want to still have a male and a female left after I slaughter the yaks, what you can do is just go straight to the butcher, pull this pole down, switch it to the yak pasture, and you'll see that the new yak is a female yak. Well, let's kill that yak. Butcher the yak. And then someone comes, kills the yak, butchers it. Look at that, bones and meat. Woohoo! Alright, so that means some guy comes over here and works a bone into a needle. The bone is now a needle, which means it's now possible to build the tailor. They're working on the tailor. That's good. Excellent. Excellent. We have a tailor, which means I can tell the tailor that at all times I would like to have a minimum of 32 bandages available, and just it's good to have, say, 10 string. Oh wait, no, I'm still on bandages. 32. I need to add the string and tell it that I want there to be 10 string available at any time, and that should do it for the tailor. The rest of the stuff will happen automatically, though I will make a couple sacks. Sacks are what you carry stuff around in that goes in bags, and that means I can build storage bags. So I can just add in 4 bags there. And they get right to work. Look at that, they're making bandages. Oh, so good. I need another crate here, so I'll build a storage crate. And they're making sandwiches out of the meat. Or is he just building bandages? Oh, he's making strings. Need strings for the bags. This means we can also... I want to wait for the bags to get done, but then after that we can start queuing up real honest-to-God mattresses. Make beds in these rooms down here. And just when nothing else is going on, we've got bones. Repeat statuettes, so we have something to trade with. But that's a low priority job, so I'm going to go in here and set the priority to 6. So that is a lower priority. Only somebody who's got nothing else to do will come and do that. That looks promising. He's got bolts of cloth and string there. And then it goes to bed. Somebody else takes over. They built a bag. They installed the bag. And install another bag. For the love of God, you guys, come clean up this mess. That reminds me, we need a bag in here too. Storage bag. Yep, use those sacks to gather up those seeds and clippings and put them into bags. Excellent work, gnomes. Okay, now that that's going, we can start... Ooh, look at them hoovering up all that dirt out of those rooms. Let's build some beds. Furniture, bed. Build the beds. Bed there. Bed there. Let's see, what is my population right now? I've got 13 people. And that right there is 12 rooms, so I'm going to need some more. That'll probably be enough for now. Going to need some more storage crates. Now crate class stuff is showing up in here again. Are these bags already full? Seed, seed, seed. Yep, need more bags. Build, storage, bag. 6 more bags. The farm looks a lot more tidy now, though. Check stocks here. Got 1,000 dirt. About 400 raw stone, 72 logs, 10 yak hides from that yak. A lot of seed, some clippings, mostly birch, which is good. I like birch. Grain down to 6 oranges. Gonna need our own fruit orchard pretty quick. Alright, rather than deal with the slope of the hill here, I'm going to build my own flat area with which to extend things on. Now that will cast most of the bottom of the hill here in shadow, but I find it's just easier than terracing or digging out. It's not exactly realistic, but build, terrain, floor, soil, dirt. Build. Look at that. And they build it, and I just let the grass grow to it. Puts that 1,000 dirt to good use. Even if it is going to cast a great big shadow on this section of the map. Oh well. I can put torches down there if it really bothers me too much. Beds are being made, so I can start designated areas being personal quarters. I just leave them vacant, and as they get sleepy, gnomes will come and claim them as their own. Yep, and the sleepies are already claiming their rooms. The advantage of personal quarters over sleeping in the dormitory, and not just because the dormitory has straw beds, but generally the increased worth of the private quarters makes them, it counts as a modifier that makes them need to sleep for less at a stretch, whereas the worth of the dormitory is meaningless. That it just is just one step better than sleeping on the floor. Matter of fact, now that we're starting to get private quarters, I'll soon be converting the dormitory into a hospital, which is where wounded gnomes will go. Uh-oh! A goblin has been spotted. Goblin raiders, yuck. Alright, fortunately it pauses when a goblin is spotted. Unfortunately, my one guy in armor is asleep. So I'm going to need to very quickly throw together a military by putting more people in his squad. Now I'm looking for guys with high weapons skills. He's got 15 hammer, that'll do. He's got 18 axe, that'll do. He's got 16 axe, that'll do. He sucks at everything. 13 axe, there's got to be somebody better. 12 sword. 13 hammer, 12 sword, 12 sword, 15 hammer maybe. I'd like to have one sword user in there just because I don't think I have enough hammers to go around. Well, 15 hammer it is. Can't be too choosy. Now it'll only take them a couple seconds to beat through that door and get into my stores and start stealing stuff and or killing gnomes. So just I'm also going to go ahead and make a militia squad. And I'm going to do that by making a new unarmed militia position. Their perk is way over the gnome, which just means if they're not carrying anything and they're not using any weapons or armor, they get a bonus in combat. Uniform is nothing. And I'm going to set, so they were treat if bleeding and assist squad leader. Now at this new position, I make a new formation that I call militia formation. And see, the perk will be, I guess keep your eyes open is the best one for that. And populate it with unarmed militia. And I'm not going to set them to defend gnomes, because I don't want them attacking everything they see, but I will have them perform attack orders, because I'm about to give one here. Now, squads, I need a new squad. Grizzly Desecrators. Good as the name that is, I want Militia Squad 1. It's going to use the militia formation. And in it, I'm going to throw everybody else who's not affiliated. Starting with the leader, I want to be the guy highest in fighting. Hoos is pretty good at fighting. Brawling means fighting with an improvised weapon, not necessarily with fists. Fighting is with fists. Ooh, Klinklik is a good fist fighter. Oh, a lot of these guys just suck. But at least it's better than nothing, so I'm going to just start throwing people in militia formations so that they behave reliably. Militia Squad 2. The little S by name means that he's in a squad already. So we've got to add everybody into a squad so that they all can be given orders. And I think that's everybody. That makes 13 people, which I think is, yep, that's 13 people. Okay. Now everybody's in a squad. I can give the order to everyone attack the Goblin Raider, and I'm going to do it on this guy who probably hasn't been spotted yet either. Alright, let's see how this turns out. Shoot, another Goblin's coming in. He's got a two-handed hammer. Well, I'm going to go ahead and add the all squads attack to him too. Got a Goblin. Oh, it's a dog pile. They got all the goblins. Good. Alright, I'm going to set this butcher shop to automatically butcher corpses and excess livestock. So we're going to have goblin sandwiches for dinner. Yep, chop them up. Good, good. And I don't think I suffered any casualties. Excellent. Didn't even have to have a guy who's got the armor and weapons there. The gnomes were able to defend themselves so long as they're organized into a militia unit. And so long as their enemy is relatively harmless, which, to be honest, that was a pretty weak attack. When the goblins start showing up with real weapons, and... oh, man. Or, God forbid, that had been something like a badger or a bear. Let's see. In the meantime, why don't we forge a little more? Well, really, this was just meant to be a good guide to how you get started and get established. And since I've finally got my tailor going and have survived my first goblin attack, I'd say this map is well on its way to being a sustainable, defendable little gnome fortress. This is probably going to be a very long video after editing, and frankly, I don't know if anybody really gives a crap. I plan to fast forward through most of the time just waiting for something to happen. But on the off chance anybody wants to see more of this, just sound off in the comments and let me know. This is Gas Bandit, signing off. Have a good one.